Hello and welcome to this edition of Soldier's Journal. I'm your host, Sergeant Jennifer Anderson. Thank you for joining us as we cover stories that are all about you, the soldier. In this edition, Army Chief of Staff General Ray Odierno talks about the progress being made in Afghanistan. We meet soldiers who are able to practice their Muslim faith downrange. But first, we go to the White House where Staff Sergeant Ty Carter receives the Medal of Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, accompanied by Medal of Honor recipient Staff Sergeant Ty Carter.
And as dawn broke that October morning, with Ty and most of our troops still in their bunks, their worst fears became a reality. 53 American soldiers were suddenly surrounded by more than 300 Taliban fighters. The outpost was being slammed from every direction. Machine gun fire, rocket-propelled grenades, mortars, sniper fire. It was chaos, the blizzard of bullets and steel into which Ty ran, not once or twice or even a few times, but perhaps 10 times. And in doing so, he displayed the essence of true heroism, not the urge to surpass all others at whatever cost, but the urge to serve others at whatever cost.
Staff Sergeant Carter gave his remarks during his induction ceremony into the Hall of Heroes at the Pentagon.
Ladies and gentlemen, Staff Sergeant Carter.
I am honored and humbled to stand before you today. Thank you for your kind words about my family and all the brave Gold Star families. That morning, I didn't even have the time to put on the proper clothes. I was essentially in my PJs and body armor when I realized this was not ordinary harassing fire. This was bigger. The brave men of Bravo, Black Knight Troop, 3rd Squadron, 61st Cavalry Regiment, 4th Brigade Combat Team, 4th Infantry Division, quickly felt the weight of a Taliban force 7 to 8 times our size. The Taliban had clearly watched us for months. They knew exactly what we would do at every turn. Turns out they were dead wrong. Dead wrong in the tune of more than 100 of their fighters' bodies withering in the same hills and passes they used to ambush us. Outpositioned, outnumbered, and outgunned, we fought back. When the dust settled on our makeshift home in the Hindu Kush, we were left with the ashes from a fallen sky, torch trinkets from our lives back home, and as fate would have it, we would never be the same. Thank you for sharing this special day with my family, my team members, and me.
Sergeant Carter says that he will take advantage of the opportunity this award has given him by talking with fellow soldiers and veterans who struggle with PTSD. His message: there is nothing weak about seeking help. Army Chief of Staff General Ray Odierno visited leaders and soldiers deployed to Afghanistan to discuss the way ahead in Operation Enduring Freedom. Staff Sergeant John Archiquette takes us to Forward Operating Base Azizullah, where progress is clearly being made in the transition to Afghan-led operations.
As Operation Enduring Freedom enters its 12th year, Afghan forces have taken the lead in many aspects of security operations. General Ray Odierno has seen incredible progress during his 2 years as Army Chief of Staff, and the shift in responsibility was evident during a recent trip to Afghanistan.
Well, it's really been a fundamental change because on this visit, all of the units are clearly now in the train advise role, where before we were still conducting operations with the Afghan Army, but now we're clearly advising them, and we are helping them as they conduct operations independently of coalition forces here on the ground. So that's the most significant difference, and they're doing a very good job.
While honoring many American soldiers for their bravery, General Odierno also recognized the courage and dedication of Afghan security forces.
We've seen them take over full responsibility for security. We're seeing them fighting bravely. There's no doubt in my mind that they have the capability to secure this nation post-2014.
And while Afghans have taken the lead in combat operations, the U.S. will still have an important role to play in the support and development of the nation of Afghanistan.
There's still some things that we have to do. We have to help them to develop the systems and through the highest level of governments to support them and develop some enablers that they will need post-2014. But they are well on their way to having the capability to secure the Afghan people post-2014.
Staff Sergeant John Archiquette, Forward Operating Base Azazula, Afghanistan.
During his visit to Afghanistan, General Odierno administered the oath of enlistment to 18 soldiers and awarded various medals to about 20 others, including medals for valor and Purple Hearts. Representatives from the Department of Defense and 27 states across the nation gathered in Indiana. Their focus, preparation for a catastrophic event. Gail McCabe brings us this report.
I'm a little sick to my stomach.
The potential for a cataclysmic event is an acknowledged part of the American landscape. If it happens, when it happens, who responds, and how.
Whether it's hurricanes, floods, fires, or man-made threats, bombs, nuclear, radiological, biological, chemical, these are catastrophic events we have to be prepared for.
This is something that is really hard to envision. In this scenario, we're talking about 40,000 dead. We're talking about 37,000 that had to be evacuated. We're talking about 12,000 that are working through needing to be hospitalized, medical care.
Bringing the vision to life is the driving force behind Exercise Vigilant Response, a training event sponsored by U.S. Northern Command, conducted by U.S. Army North.
We'll go in and clear this area, mark any contamination zones, and start to count casualties.
The casualties in this scenario are the result of a terrorist attack, a 10-kiloton nuclear detonation. Local authorities have asked for help.
We bring a lot of unique capabilities. We have a lot of resources, but in the homeland, with the National Response Framework, we work within a construct with our other federal partners in order to provide those resources.
Getting resources to the right place at the right time is just one of the training objectives. More than 7,000 crisis experts are on hand, military, civilian, local, state, federal. From command and control, search and rescue, decontamination, communication, medical, all are tested. It's a hands-on platform where the nation is immersed in crisis response in the homeland, focused on dealing with a catastrophic event and saving lives. Gail McCabe, Indiana.
After the break, we go to Afghanistan and meet a group of tight-knit soldiers who keep the roads clear of IEDs. And we meet a soldier who is no stranger to the African continent. That's up next on the Soldier's Journal.
We still remember where we were in that moment that changed us forever. A morning that galvanized a nation. Out of fear came strength, and out of tragedy came resilience, and more heroes stepped forward than anyone could ask for. So on this somber anniversary, we remember that there are some things we will never forget.
We are among the most highly trained in the world.
We are experts at getting to the truth, wherever it may be.
We have the very latest technology and techniques at our fingertips.
We are committed to bringing the full weight to bear, no matter how long it takes.
We will not tolerate sexual assault in our Army.
Over a decade of conflict, improvised explosive devices have become ingrained in the American and Afghan consciousness. Thanks to our soldiers who clear the routes, we're increasingly able to defeat the use of IEDs. Marine Corporal Joshua DeFore introduces us to a tight-knit group of soldiers who keep the roads safe for travel.
It's 2 a.m. pitch black. A convoy of heavily armored trucks test fire their .50 caliber guns before setting out on the dirt roads of eastern Afghanistan. This isn't a pleasure cruise. These U.S. soldiers will be driving for the next 8 hours to clear their route of improvised explosive devices and various other dangers. In an odd way, they're almost hoping to find something.
Any day that you find it, I mean, the IEDs, they have to be found. It makes me feel real good to know that I've cleared the route for everybody else.
Yeah. Not finding something, it kind of makes me think that the road's a little more clear. It means we're doing our job and making sure the road stays clear. But at the same time, if we find something, I would rather it be us than somebody else, because then if somebody else hits it and we didn't, then, you know, we're not doing our job correctly.
After long hours spent cooped up in a truck, riding through risky valleys and suspicious mountainsides, a little discomfort would be understandable, but the shared experience within each truck creates a bond that keeps the team focused.
I'm just here to make sure that they get home to their families. Route clearance is just slow. I mean, the deliberate missions take hours and hours and hours, but at the end of the day, it's a gratifying feeling to know that the route is clear.
Reporting from Kunar Province, Afghanistan, I'm Marine Corporal Joshua DeFore.
There you go, Price.
The team also gathers evidence on the IEDs before disposal, which helps the Afghan authorities prosecute individuals who pose a threat to soldiers and civilians. When a mass casualty alarm goes off, first responders scramble to provide combat life-saving care. We go to Bagram Airfield, where medics are taking part in some of the most realistic and chaotic training in order to keep their skills sharp.
Captain Zal Paymaster is a man with blood on his hands. Thankfully, it's fake blood.
So it's most like venous, but it's
All part of a mass cal exercise testing the first responders of the 555 Engineering Brigade in Bagram, Afghanistan.
near the rib.
He and his team are pulling out every fake injury they have,
Think or no?
along with gallons of fake blood, to set up their most elaborate scenario yet.
Took about, I think it was almost 2.5 to 3 hours before of just getting everybody, what we call moulaged or dressed up for their roles with various injuries, various bandages, prompting them on what they should say, how they should act. Okay, so you can't open your eyes, you can't walk, you're one of those immediate things. Just again, to build that realism, so when my medics come through that door, I mean, it's as real as I can make it for them. What happens is that this building gets struck by 2 107mm rockets.
Responding to a mass cal event where the casualties outnumber the first responders 3 to 1 is difficult enough. But the combat lifesavers had another challenge to overcome in this scenario. Darkness.
You have the confusion of the lights being turned off, a lot of people running through the building, not knowing where to go, not knowing who to grab first and who to take out. We had to basically feel our way through and bring them out as quickly as we can and treat them right there on the spot.
Can you hear me?
The scenario tested responders on 2 major criteria: determining the most critically injured patients for immediate care, and getting all patients to the hospital within 60 minutes, known as the golden hour.
They met both goals. One was to find the highest acuity patients in 30 minutes and move them. The second, which they met, and then they exceeded my goal, which was to have all the patients found, triaged, and transported in less than 60 minutes, which they did.
32 minutes from the first mass cal alarm, the last patients were successfully transported. And while seeing the exercise play out as planned was rewarding, the medical team knows the real reason for training like this.
To save people's lives. That's the most important thing at the end of the day, to save somebody's life and let them return home safely.
Staff Sergeant John Archiquette, Bagram Airfield, Afghanistan.
The mass cal event is one of the most complex situations that a brigade's medical treatment facility can potentially face, with practice being the key to success. African Endeavor 2013 in Lusaka, Zambia has brought more than 40 different nations together to practice their communication skills. But one American soldier is no stranger to Africa, nor the different languages spoken there. Army Sergeant Joe Labuka has more.
Being here in Zambia, the only time they can make the difference between me and my fellow Americans is when I am in uniform.
With more than 30 African nations running around Africa Endeavor 2013, it may be hard to spot Captain Pasegulu Yoma, but there is one characteristic that makes him stand out. He is an officer in the Missouri National Guard. Captain Yoma immigrated from Togo in 2004, looking to further his education. Through the Guard, he found the opportunities he was looking for, as well as a chance to give back to his new home.
I can say probably that was the part that interested me at the beginning, and I joined the Guard because I felt like I will not be a good soldier, but at least at home I can help my fellow Missourian. So I'm very proud.
Now working as an interpreter during the exercise, Captain Yoma speaks French and a native language of Togo. Zambia may not be his country of birth, but he is happy to be back in Africa.
Everybody's speaking the native language to me, thinking that I'm a Zambian. So I feel like Zambia is also a hometown for me.
During the exercise, Captain Yoma even was able to see some old friends from Togo. But on this meeting, he was wearing the U.S. Army uniform.
I'm really proud to be in the U.S. Army and very proud to be also in Zambia, back home helping, playing a double role of American and African-born soldier.
Army Sergeant Joe Labutka, Lusaka, Zambia.
Translating multiple languages on the fly, rewriting briefs and presentation in different languages comes at no small cost to Captain Yoma. He says by the end of the day, mentally, he's wiped out. In today's diverse Army, soldiers come from different backgrounds and different religious faiths. When you're deployed, being among those who practice your faith makes a big difference. Staff Sergeant Jose Ibarra brings us this report from Afghanistan.
This here is a MEP 806 Alpha 60K generator. These generators power things like motor pools and things of that nature. You have your terminal.
Today is a special day for Sergeant Lewis, a power generator equipment repairer, and Private Muhammad,
I drive these
a motor transport operator. Both are deployed in Afghanistan, part of Combined Task Force Dragoon.
I've never been in a situation in my career to where I've seen an actual place to where we can go. Like, you know, soldiers have churches and they have all different types of denominations, but actually having an Islamic center is actually pretty exciting. I'm excited to go. I've never seen one in my career, and I think it's awesome that they're actually finally doing it.
Sergeant Lewis and Private Muhammad are Muslim Americans, and today for the first time they are being introduced to the Islamic Center on Kandahar Airfield, Afghanistan.
Considering we have people from different backgrounds and faith groups, it would be logical to note that we would also have soldiers from the Islamic tradition. And those Muslim soldiers are afforded the same free exercise of religion as anyone else. And one of the ways in which we provide that in the Army is through religious materials and accommodation of their religious practices. We advise commanders when there may be upcoming holidays, particularly, for example, Ramadan, as we refer to it in Afghanistan, commonly known as Ramadan.
Sergeant Blevins, who found Islam while deployed in Iraq in 2007, welcomed Sergeant Lewis and Private Muhammad and recalls his first time in the Islamic Center.
I was walking on cloud nine. It really made my day because I was convinced that, like Iraq, this was going to be a very lonely time for me. It was going to be a lonely Ramadan. It was going to be a lonely year. I'd be worshiping by myself. So when I found out that CAF has an Islamic center that's open to everybody, and then I came in here and received the welcome that I did, it's a blessing. Come and worship with your brothers and sisters. You don't need to hide. You don't need to be afraid to say, I'm an American, I'm a soldier, and I'm a Muslim.
I'm Army Staff Sergeant Jose Ibarra, Kandahar Airfield, Afghanistan.
After the break, we'll go to Germany where soldiers compete for the Expert Infantry Badge. And we'll see soldiers train in the hot jungles of Singapore.
A private first class wants to know how to stay in Germany past his ETS date. To stay in Germany legally after you separate, you must request a European out. Complete your European out paperwork well in advance. Your request must be approved by your commanding officer. See your personnel office about requesting a European out. Benefits questions? Shoot an email to yourbenefits@dma.mil.
For official release, the VA announced that vets filing an original fully developed claim or ABN title served 1 year of retroactive non-disability.
Veterans with a service-connected disability may now receive retroactive disability benefits. Vets who submit a new disability claim through the fully developed claim process may be eligible for a year's worth of retroactive benefits. Go to benefits.va.gov/FDC to read all about it. And that's the bottom line.
As we go around the Army, we travel from Singapore to Illinois. But first, we stop in Germany. The Joint Multinational Readiness Center, Hohenfels, Germany. It's a badge that costs $2 at the military clothing sales store. But some infantry soldiers are willing to shed blood, sweat, and tears to get it. It's the Expert Infantryman badge, and recently soldiers from the 1-4 Infantry Brigade vied for the coveted badge during 2 days of rigorous tests in the field. Candidates begin the testing process by attempting to complete the PT test with a minimum score of 75 out of 100 in each event. Soldiers must also pass a daytime and nighttime land navigation course. The candidates must pass these events first to stay in contention. With those events behind them, the infantrymen must successfully complete at least 8 out of 10 basic infantry tasks in 3 evaluation lanes. The lanes include a patrol lane, an urban lane, and a traffic control point. Once complete, the soldiers needed to conquer a 12-mile foot march in less than 3 hours. Marseilles, Illinois. 120 members of the Illinois National Guard participated in the Adjutant General's Rifle and Pistol Match, or commonly known as the Tag Match. Soldiers compete in 5 individual and 4 team events that test competitors' abilities to engage multiple targets from different distances and positions, including standing, kneeling, and prone. Winners of the Tag Match may be selected to join the Illinois National Guard marksmanship team. Singapore. The U.S. and Singapore armies conducted a full troop exercise codenamed Exercise Lightning Strike. Soldiers from the 2nd Infantry Division at Joint Base Lewis McChord and Singaporean soldiers spent 4 days in the jungle during a mock mission as they cleared a simulated enemy stronghold in a mountainous training area. This year was the 6th time the two forces joined together for the exercise sponsored by U.S. Army Pacific, but it's only the 2nd time it occurred in Singapore. And that's a look around the Army. After the break, we'll go to Fort Carson, Colorado and meet a soldier who received a very big promotion.
You serve proudly. Your country is better for it. What about serving again? This time for your community as well as your country. That's what you can do in the Army National Guard. During natural disasters, you can be there for the people of your community, rescuing the stranded, delivering food, medical supplies, and hope. It's part-time, so you can live your full-time life as a civilian. Bring your experience and leadership skills home to your community. Learn more at nationalguard.com.
Welcome back to Easier Than You Think. Last question, what bill allows veterans to participate in education programs, including vocational schools and on-the-job training? Annette.
The electric bill.
A dollar bill?
My neighbor bill.
No, it's the post 9/11 GI Bill, the only bill that pays for vocational education and on-the-job training.
Just go to gibill.va.gov because it's easier than you think.
Climbing up the ladder of promotions and rank is usually done from one level to the next as either enlisted or as an officer. Sergeant Megan Berry shows us a unique case in which a soldier is promoted under very special circumstances.
It's the beginning of a new day at the mountain post, Fort Carson, Colorado. And Specialist Joel Hanna has a big grin on his face. And for good reason.
Just kind of a small, informal thing, you know.
Small and informal, words most people wouldn't use to describe the kind of promotion Specialist Hanna is about to receive. A promotion most people, including his closest friends and colleagues, have never even heard of.
No, I've never heard of that, but it's well deserved and way past due.
And if you ask around, you start to get the feeling that he does deserve this.
Oh, I'm very happy. I'm thrilled for. I'd love to work with the guy again. I don't care if he's my boss or my subordinate.
And Specialist Hannah will make that drastic jump from subordinate to boss as he transitions from an enlisted E4 specialist to a commissioned officer as an O3 captain.
So raise your hand and repeat after me.
Specialist Hannah, who already has his doctorate, will ship off to his officer basic course to prepare himself for a future as Captain Hannah in the U.S. Army.
And for me, I think his leadership is just going to be phenomenal from this point on, just because he's known what it takes to start from the bottom, and now he's in a position of great leadership. So he's going to be well rehearsed in what to do and how to interact with soldiers. I mean, to us, it's like, wow, that's our work being paid off.
And as for the new title,
I don't know yet. It's gonna take some getting used to.
Reporting from Fort Carson, Colorado, I'm Army Sergeant Megan Berry.
Before we leave you, we'd like to show you this photo of retired Sergeant Major Paul Hansen, a Vietnam veteran. Here he is addressing his fellow air defense artillerymen from the Vietnam era during a memorial unveiling ceremony at the Fort Sill Constitution Park. As you may know, this year our nation is commemorating the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War. You can see many more photos of our Army by going to our Facebook page at the address you see on the screen. Or look for us throughout the week with the latest in news about the Army on Soldiers Update. Also, check us out on radio with Soldiers Radio News on the American Forces Radio Network. That does it for this edition of Soldiers Journal. Join us again next time for stories that are all about you, the soldier.